Hey everybody, welcome to the first live pull-up tray ever, technically. And if this doesn't count really, because we did like a free agency reaction, it's the first call-in show. So what we wanted to try and do this year was try and leverage the fact that, a decent amount of people listen to this.
Yeah.
Maybe some people want to call in, share their thoughts, and maybe put us under fire. If we said something they disagree with, maybe they can come up with some trumped up charges and say, "Hey, what the hell's going on here?" Before we get to some of the calls, Trey has a burning question for me. Of course, this is the Pull Up Trey podcast, wherein I myself, Samson Folk, co-hosting, and my dear friend, my good pal Trey, pulls up. How you doing, Trey? First of all, I suppose.
I'm doing great. My question is, our beautiful blonde haired boy started his first game yesterday,
Hmm.
and to everybody else, we thought we heard big dick energy. We thought that they leaned into all the content that we've been speaking about.
Right.
It seems as though that wasn't the case. But what did you hear?
So I was involved in this controversy. I was deep in the heart of it. Now, I sit next to Adam Lascaris on Media Row. We crack jokes the whole time. I love the guy. His tweet was the one that got picked up by Bleacher Report, ESPN,
Oh,
TMZ wrote a piece based on his tweet. And so we heard, I thought I heard that big dick energy. Now, according to Strizzy and Co., it was big energy, which they're playing around with it.
yeah,
They're edging, first of all. But anyway, I hear it and we're all primed to hear big dick energy, obviously. That's why they
of course,
say
yeah.
big. If that's what they say, they said. Now, it goes viral, obviously. But before it did that, I'm excited because I'm like, holy smokes, they said big dick energy. That's funny.
Yeah.
It's prepubescent. It's hilarious. I like it. And Adam asks me before he sends, his tweet, he said big dick energy, right? I'm like, oh hell yeah, man. They did it. I basically press tweet. I'm telling them, hit it, man. They said it. And maybe it was the second half, Raptors PR. We get that little, hey, so you said big dick energy. We're hearing that maybe that wasn't the case. The hammer stroke falls quickly. I'm like, okay, we have to now. Mine is fine because I just tweeted it out. I didn't tweet out the video. Nobody wants to aggregate my thing. The tough thing is Adam had his tweet aggregated to like millions of followers. And so he has to message each of these companies individually,
Oh,
DM them after they DM him like, hey, can we repost your thing? And he has to message them all individually like, hey, so it turns out maybe this isn't what they said. And I didn't have to do anything like that. I just they told us like, I guess that's not what he said. And they're like, they're not like coming down on us like,
yeah.
hey, do that now. They say, hey, it's up to you if you want to, delete the tweet or amend it or whatever. And I was like, well, if Strizzy is saying he didn't say big dick energy, then obviously I'm wrong. I thought I heard it. I
Uh,
listened back. I'm
all
like, I guess it's big. Why you would say big energy? That's like how you talk to like a third grader, right? It's like, ooh, big. You emphasize the adjective. Anyway, so I issue a correction. Adam issues many, and so I that was probably most of the rest of his night. Honestly, was kind of being like, "Hey, we we didn't get that right," which I feel bad for him, and it partially was my fault, but I don't feel bad about that aspect. I wanted to lean into it, man. I thought it was funny. I thought it was interesting. You've been on a different side of the Grady coin than I have. Let's keep it right here until we get some of the callers. What did you think of Grady's first start, and what have you made of his first 11 games?
Um, I, I'm impressed by how well he like fits into this like the seam of the offense and the ethos of what they're trying to accomplish. Constant movement. He's relocating. He's making the right plays, and as a team defender, he's shown that he can make proper rotations and stick. Although he might not have the strength to really stick as a point of attack defender,
Sure.
but obviously we drafted him to shoot. The shot, the shots, the shots aren't falling. We kind of saw that similarly in summer league. Like the catch and shoot stuff, especially in the corner, has been very difficult. And for a team that really lacks shooting, it's tough to see. Like obviously, you want your rookie to fit in, have failures, and see what we can have. But the Raptors aren't good enough to have another additional player who cannot shoot on the court. So, I've told you, I'm giving it 25, 30 games, and we'll see.
This is a little bit more tame than what I've been getting from you on the interpersonal level. I'm talking my trash. I'm like, me personally, 2 of 10 from the 13th overall pick. It's not gonna bother me. You're like, shoot it, give me make something. I mean, do you want to amend any of your statements? Do you feel stronger than what you've portrayed?
No, I feel the same. He has to hit shots at the end of the day. Like, I can feel like a Nostradamus and say like, I love how he filled the lane there and didn't score. It is great process. Like he had that one cut yesterday where Brook Lopez just like immediately stuffed him at the rim. But those are plays and those are movements that several Raptors cannot do off the ball. And when he does score, that is going to be very useful. So, like I said, I'm giving him some grace.
Okay, we're bringing in our first caller, the wonderful Allan Shane Lewis, who is of course known as co-hosting the Great Canadian Baking Show since season 4, if I'm correct. Maybe Allan will let me know. Allan, you are on stage. He's a professional comedian. He is a frequent collaborator with many different people who talk basketball, and he's hooped with us before, actually. Wait, Allan, for the people who don't know, I believe you were involved in a somewhat famous niche dunk competition. If you can.
Oh yeah, this is a story that I'll be telling people at the bar when I'm 70. They're like, let me tell you, I had a dunk off with DeMar DeRozan back in Monday. Back when the knees were healthy, him and Sonny Weems, that came to the gym that we hoop at. We had a dunk off. It's on YouTube. I always look at that video. I'm just like, damn, look how good those knees were, man. Holy crap. Just no icing afterwards, none of that. Just no pain, just ready to go. But yep, that was my heyday.
What's I haven't seen the video. I only heard tell of it. What was the dunks you pulled off?
I did a 360 off the bounce, double pump off a one bounce. I tried to do a free throw. I could not get from the free throw, but like just a little bit further back. I can't remember the other ones, but Sonny Weems was getting up so high. He had crazy bounce.
Did they give you any like honorary Young Guns position? Was anything on the table?
None of that, but there was a moment that made me feel good because like I crossed up DeMar on like a couple of plays and I felt good. And Sonny was like, let me guard this guy. And then he bodied the fuck out of me.
He went after it. So Speaking of bodying, we've seen Grady get, some physicality has been turned his way. Guys hunt him out. What have you, just to get the Grady perspective from your angle, what have you thought of his start to his career?
I always knew that he'd have that type of struggle defensively. Like the speed of the game and the physicality of it was always going to be something that he's going to have to adjust to. And as far as offensive kind of additions of what he's going to do, I'm not too worried. Like DeMar came into the league off of like a 9th pick and had like 8 points a game to start his season. Yeah. So it's there's enough time for him to figure it out. And I don't know, I'm very patient. With this team. I think the main goal of this season is not going to be in the wins column. It's not going to be in the play-in. It's not going to be in the playoffs. It's about development and making sure we have a core concept that kind of works and making sure Darko and the players kind of mesh together. So when it comes to all that stuff, I'm just like, as long as we're on the right track, I'm totally fine with it.
So if you're team patience, and I know you're on Twitter, I know you probably have like the pulse of the fan base to some degree. What do you see as the largest overreaction currently then?
There's a big win now energy. And it's been happening for the past like 4 years. I'm like, when that championship happened, I didn't think it was ever going to happen in my lifetime, or even like it would be something that I have to like with my grandchildren be like, oh my God, we did it. Like, so I'm very satiated. I'm very good. I got to enjoy that when I was young. I'm so happy about that. I've seen the dark years of like Omar Cook and Pops Mensah-Bonsu. So I'm so fine. I've seen the depths of what we can get to. I've seen Mariana Trench. So I'm not too worried about that. But there is this like win now or trade the whole team kind of mentality when it comes to the Raptors. And it's not just the Raptors too. I think it's the commoditization of the NBA. Everyone kind of feels like their team needs to win, or it's a bad season. I'm like, well, I'd rather be a Spurs. I'd rather kind of like build this kind of identity over the years where players in the free agency like want to come over and kind of want to join us, because like nobody wants to come to Canada. It's cold as fuck and you have to pay double taxes. So if we can actually make a core like structure of like, oh wow, they're winning, they know what they do, they pay their players right, they treat them right, they trade them where they want to go, I'm fine with that.
Do you think like there's some maybe like superhero accountants who can make it so that, you know, like you play half your games not in Canada and they can like skirt the Canadian officials?
Well, shout out to my tax man, Fred Levy. Yes, I think he could probably figure that out, you know?
I always wondered about that. And I know every once in a while, I've never talked to an accountant about it, but people on Twitter will descend and be like, oh yeah, this is really simple tax law. You just do this, 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 and this. I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. Like, I don't really trust you to disseminate tax info.
Yeah.
But then again, let's get
you got the CRA and IRS coming at you from like two different angles, and you're just like, damn,
yeah, man,
I gotta hide in the Cayman Islands.
Ain't that the truth? When we played, I'm from Rexdale right now. You were wearing a Delano Banton jersey. Any thoughts on our boy no longer with the team?
Hey, Pat Bev said we ain't got no dogs. Guess what? He got dropped by Delano Banton last night. So I don't know what you're talking about. We got bear dogs out here.
Damn. As far as like Scotty Barnes, big picture Scotty Barnes, this is something we have to get an opinion from everybody who comes in. What have you made of the leap this season? And is he already farther along this year than you expected him to be?
I felt like a lot of the stuff that he had in his game this season, he had last season, but he just didn't have the green light to kind of do a lot of things. Like a couple of games that I've been to, I'm just noticing how quickly he's shooting off. Like as soon as he's open, he's like letting it go. So it feels like the coach has like giving him the confidence to be like, just do what you got to do and get your buckets. Because once you start shooting like that, the defense going to pull up a little closer, and then you get those driving lanes, and it's kind of all cascades into like a better game. So I think it's just a confidence thing and giving him the reins and giving him the keys and a little bit more space, because now Fred isn't kind of holding the ball as much, as far as a point guard. But yeah, like because you see all that stuff in those Rico Hines videos. You're like, oh my God, like look how like versatile this player is. He's going all over the court, shooting from like threes to like going low. And he's doing it now, and I'm really happy for him and a great efficiency. So if this season is about making sure he becomes the best that he can be and become the Magic Johnson that I truly believe he could possibly be, I'm all for it.
Okay, we're swinging this to you, Tre.
Yeah,
your countryman from Jamaica, man. Scotty, that's your guy. What have you thought so far? We haven't talked in like, I don't know, since the first few days of the regular season.
No, it's been wild. Like, if he maintains exactly what he's been doing the last 10 or so games, the season is already a success. He's shown that he can provide the sort of star leap where you can sort of make a direction and start to fit other players around his actual timeline. I was a little nervous at first, like because like we spoke about it like private, like his shooting percentages were just so high, and that was a big reasoning for his scoring output. But you saw like games like yesterday, although he hit all three of his threes, he was able to get down low. He was able to actually establish paint touches in like the confined spacing that he already has. Like says a lot for where he's growing as a pick and roll player, as well as just a finisher. He shows like incredible touch, especially out of the post. So I think you can build an offense around it, and when you get more shooting around him, it's something that you can build an actual identity, and the offense that Darko's actually trying to eventually show and build like will like blow to success. So I'm very happy about what he's done and how the season is going in general.
I put out a lot of stuff, and there's always comments are always available. So I'll go poke around and see what people are saying. There's people who think that Scotty is playing completely within Darko's offense. There's people that think he's succeeding in spite of it. There's people that think it's a mix of both. Where are you currently on how he's fitting in? And also what the Barnes you're seeing now, what do you think is like the ideal way to use him? Just project into the future. What do you got?
I would say he's succeeding despite the offense currently. Definitely. He's involved in one of the toughest spacing situations in the NBA. I would say like in the inverse of Nurse, he's definitely gotten more possessions where he's with the bench and he is the central cog in the offense. Those lineups haven't been really good. Yesterday they had success, but in general they haven't been very good. In like long-term perspective, he's most powerful as a post hub. If he develops enough shooting where he can face up, drive, actually create space, because when you usually see his best creation buckets are usually him mid post, driving hard one way, establishing that bump, and he's either getting a layup at the rim or he's able to hit a midi from there. That should ideally, with better shooting, attract more rotations. And you saw once he was cooking later in the fourth quarter, teams were rotating even despite having no space. And that's when Jakob got it more involved. That's when Malachi got more involved. So I think him as a post-up, keeping him as close to the rim as possible, and the shooting being like a surplus or extra gravy would be the way I would develop his game.
Okay, I want to pit you two against each other a little bit because I know Tre is like doomsday on the Jakob trade. And maybe, Allan, if you're, Mr. Patience and you're kind of like, hey, it's all good. We're seeing how this goes. Maybe he's the center for the next 4 years of Scottie's career when he gets that presumably max extension after year 4, that kind of stuff. Allan, what have you thought about Poeltl, the aftermath of the trade, and how it's currently going?
Do I think there were better options potentially, at that moment? Yes.
Who you got?
Can I be happy enough to have a center that can grab a board here and there and give me a floater, once or twice a game? Definitely. I think that's something we've sorely needed for the past couple of years. So just having a big man who just plays center and just does what a center does and gives you those kind of just like easy 1-2 offensive rebounds to kind of like rejigger the offense, but I understand. Looking back in hindsight is 2020. It's beautiful vision, but at the time, I don't know what were we supposed to do.
I'm here to tell you, Tre threw his hat the moment it happened, off the head, man.
As soon as the ink dried, like this trade, like reminds me of. I'm gonna age myself right now. When we traded for Jermaine O'Neal, I went on my Hotmail and said, "I can't believe this." It's just
you like the Twin Towers. You weren't a fan of that?
No, and it's just the situation that they've now put themselves in. One, they didn't make the playoffs, obviously, and that hurts significantly. And Fred left. You've also like put this death sentence on your best player. Pascal, Scotty, and Jakob is an extremely tough fit, and you've already seen since he's been on the team, Pascal's rim attempts have gone down. His overall production has gone down. And to do a trade that both harms the guy that you want to build your future around and then the best player on your team makes literally no sense. And then not to doomsday. The defense hasn't been that great this season. So it's really tough. I think Jakob's still a good player. He showed some good signs yesterday, but I feel, though, they're going to have to make a trade to make the team fit better. And that might be in consequence for the best player on the team, which is tough.
I'll say, so some statistical contextualizing. The offense is a decent amount worse with Jakob on the floor this season. And shockingly, the defense is, there was a moment during last game where the numbers went negative for about, like 5 minutes. It was like officially on the season, the Raptors have played better defense with Jakob off the floor, which was insane. Then they made a run. They played zone for like 12 possessions in a row. It came back around. But Jakob, a guy who per 100 possessions was making the Raptors 10 points better, like just on defense last season. And the fact that they had like this, when Fred was there, they had this offense that was like 98th percentile, this lineup, when you swapped Schroeder for Fred. And then you look at they're worse on offense, and then drawing even defensively, you're kind of like, what the hell happened here? That's kind of nuts. You hope it turns around, but I guess, Allan, rebuttal, anything to say there? Not that it's a debate show or anything, but you get my meaning.
Jakob Poeltl and Pascal Siakam are friends. I rest my case. Thank you.
You know what's kind of funny is I didn't tweet it out because I thought it would be invasive, but the how the Spurs played the Raptors in Toronto and then Jakob got traded shortly after that. Like it was almost like, hey, don't pack your bags, just stay in Toronto. I saw Jakob and Pascal like just yakking it up in the tunnel, man, just having like the time of their lives. And it kind of reminded me of like, Draymond when he's poking KD. He's like, yeah, we got some shit to do, whatever. And I was like, man, I wonder if they're cooking anything up. But then I think back now, I'm like, they probably were like having a conversation like, you might be coming over, and they're excited about it. They're thinking like halcyon days. Remember when Kyle Lowry used to be on this team and we used to only shoot layups and 3-pointers and the spacing was sublime? And then they got here, and then Jakob had conversations with people who, once he got to Toronto, he like, hey, what happened here? He had a culture shock to a team he thought he knew, because he was like, hey, what's going on, man? This is different than I remember it. And he ended up signing back. And I don't think 20 million is like terrible. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's a steal of a deal, but I'm happy anytime a guy gets paid. I do want to see them figure out some things. Anytime I talk to Jakob about improving the offense, he talks about the damn angles of the screen. And like, I get it, Jakob. I know that's your forte. I don't know if that can fix everything though. I'm very split on it, on all of it, but
what if he figures out that JV summertime 3? What if that happens? Are we on board now? Are we all happy?
I can't trust that again. Amir Johnson is the reason. Amir Johnson showed incredible tape of just hitting threes, but weren't touching the rim at all. And then he came out and was the same dude again. I was heartbroken.
When I think about Jakob Poeltl extending the range, I am consistently reminded of when I watch him at practice. And even at practice, he doesn't shoot threes. No like way. When Jakob is testing his limits, he's going to like 18 feet baseline. He's going to the free throw line. And the 3-point shot, I do not see it. If I look at the NOAA board that's saying like arc, trajectory, spin, I feel like it crashes every time the ball comes off of Jakob's hands. So there's
18 feet out with one hand. Is that what it is? I've never really seen him do a 2-hand shot. You
are correct. It is one-handed. In fact, I have a video of him doing so because Nick Nurse last season made a joke about, I can't remember who said it, but they mentioned that Jakob doesn't shoot the 3, and Nick Nurse jokes and says, not yet. And Lewis Zatzman tweeted it out, and I went to practice the next day and saw Jakob shooting from 18 feet. He missed like 4 in a row, and that was my video. And I tweeted out and I said, Godspeed. Just I'm not certain that that's ever going to happen. The good news though is that Scottie has suddenly, his 3-point shooting went up 10%, and with a big surplus in pull-ups and a big surplus in volume, and I just can't believe it. As far as like you mentioned the consistency and stuff like that, does anybody have any attempts at shot doctoring? Is that of interest to anybody? I want to put you on this.
Call lethal shooter out. That's all we need, man.
It would be pretty funny if like Scotty was like doing the spike basket, like.
And that's just nailing
this
them.
rim is only a foot long. No, you don't even know, like an inch big, and I will shoot this. That's all his videos.
Yeah. He's kind of like John Brinkus, LeBron James took a jump with the metric tons of a Mack truck. And then lethal shooter is like, there's only this much circumference for the ball to go through. And we're under, actually, he is like the Phil Swift, like you keep upping the ante in those, what are they, like not infomercials, but commercials. It's like flex tape. And
yeah.
He's like slapping the water. He saws the boat in half. He's doing crazier and crazier things. He's like, you could build a house out of it. That's kind of the vibe I get from lethal shooter. It's actually, he had ingenuity in a way that I would have never expected. Like he's MacGyvering these like hellacious screaming metal death traps, but he's really a shooting coach. Yeah, and he coaches NBA players.
Yeah. It honestly, I think that works. He gets himself on the explore page. NBA players see it, they hit him up. Who am I to say if Reels doesn't work?
That's a crazy thing too, is that when we, I was talking to somebody who works with players yesterday, and we were talking about how social media affects players. And the fact that like there are, in the past calendar year, there's been players who have been negatively affected by, let's say, the political funnel of Instagram Reels, probably. And then there's also players who discover like their trainer on Instagram Reels. And you used to think that this kind of stuff used to just be like, maybe not necessarily a boys club or just a type of club where everyone had, you found your trainer here, you found your agent here. And the fact that now it could just be anything kind of blows my mind. But as far as that stuff goes, I have no idea, man. Allan, do you have any hot takes? I got to ask everybody.
Hot takes.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, I'm fine with losing, but let me try to think of my hottest take that I have. I don't know. Everyone on the Spurs just give the ball to Wemby. I'm tired of seeing the ball being moved around to Keon Johnson and Vassell and Zach Collins down low. Just give the ball to Wemby. Just do it. I'm tired. Let's figure it out.
You want to know something crazy? Okay, we got Curly, who's in front of a parking sign.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm in the wrong area, but I'm here anyways. I'm holding it down.
Do you have any hot takes for us, Curly? This is like reporting live.
Oh, hot takes. Let's see. Where do I begin? Move Dennis to the bench. No, I'm joking. But no. You know what? We desperately need offense, man. This team can't score a lick. They need shooting. They need it desperately. They need hoopers. We don't need projects anymore. Our defense has been solid, but we need to start shifting the philosophy a little bit. Let's get some hoopers here.
Wait, okay. So off the top of your head, let's get an 8-man rotation, if you can think of it. Wait, how cold is it right now? Are you like, what's the deal out there?
It's fresh. I wouldn't say it's cold. It's fresh. But I always use, like, you know, if you can see your own breath, it's kind of cold. But I'm
sure.
I run hot. I'm vested up. I'm sweatered up. I'm good, brother. You know, I think Gary has to be part of. Honestly, here's another hot take. Put Gary in the starting lineup.
Sure.
How's that for a hot take? I think we need a lot more spacing, especially if we're going to be having Yak on the floor. I think we've seen the success with Pascal and Scottie operating in that space. And, you know, and also gives OG a floor as well, right? And I think we all know that Gary has been comfortable as a starter. So I don't think anybody can, you know, really argue that it's going to be beneficial for everybody. Dennis coming off the bench, I would say with Grady and one of Precious or Boucher, I think playing them as a tandem has not worked out well. I think that's lost this luster. The Bash Bros are no more. And I think that'll bring some sort of consistency. And I think what would be great for Dennis is that he can run those units. All those touches that is going away from Pascal and Scottie and whomever, he can run those guys because those guys can't create if their life depended on it. So if you can get Dennis on there and you can offer that kind of creation, I really feel the Grady's, the Colocos, the Precious is really going to benefit from having that kind of leadership. And if that means Malachi gets less run, then I guess he gets less run. Unless he start hitting like 2 threes a game, then, you know, he can be that 9th man in the rotation.
Okay, wait. I'm going to bring ND on here. Let's have a show of hands. Wait, ND, you got to, wait, you got to put headphones in, man. Yeah. So anyway, we're going crazy. Anyway, let's have a show of hands. Who would move Gary to the starting lineup and put Schroeder on the bench? I would do that.
Yeah.
We got 2. We got 3.
Yeah.
Allan, you're okay with losing?
I think you guys are just cool with losing in a different way. I like the ability of Schroeder to just like once or twice in the offense be like, I'm just going to take it to the rack because I'm the fastest person on the court.
It is
and
cool
I think
to see.
some of those kind of like spurts kind of keep the defense on their feet and opens up the shooters later on. So, brother, you got to keep them out there.
We need to lose with some dignity. Okay, right? It's a disgrace right now, man.
Yeah, getting to 100 is like a dogfight for the Raptors.
So I'll do my thoughts. Is that, you know, Curly kind of spelled it out earlier when he said Dennis, some of those possessions are coming at the expense of Pascal or Scottie, and I think this leans into both what Curly's saying and also what you said earlier, Allan, which is like, and what I guess Tre expressed too, is that give Scottie like a ton of the ball and see what happens. And you were bang on, Allan, lose in a different way. you probably don't like win a ton of minutes. Maybe you win a few more, maybe you win a few less. But as far as what they're trying to do, I think it would put the ball in Scottie's hands more. I think coming into last night's game, Dennis was 11th in the NBA in touches. He's definitely high in the NBA and first on the Raptors in dribbles per touch, touch time, and then of course, 11th in the NBA in touches. Like he has a ton of the ball for a mid-level exception guard when you have Scottie trying to make that leap. And I wonder if putting Gary out there for spacing might be beneficial to what they're trying to run, especially since like the pick and roll has been uniquely dominant for Scottie so far this year. I'm open to any single rebuttal though to that stance.
I'm not against it. That kind of does sound kind of nice to have Scottie just like run the point immediately, and then you have Schroeder kind of take that second unit of guys and do his own like picking thing. But I just think you deplete that second unit so much by taking out Gary, and then we just don't have that kind of consistency. Because I as much as I love Otto Porter Jr., he's a champion. He's proven. Him and like Boucher out there, I'm not too psyched about to see, unless you wanted to start doing Nick Nurse minutes where everyone's getting 43 and no water breaks at all, not even at halftime. But I don't know. I like the way it is kind of staggered like that, or at least I feel like that's the best way that we can continuously put our foot on the pedal the entire game.
Hell yeah. Okay, I'm gonna bring ND on. ND, my brother. Curly, feel free to join once you're ready to give us the man on the street video.
I'm in a car. I'm parked now.
Okay, hell yeah. So Pascal's role, that's where I want to start. I'm really excited that we have 5 people on. My dream for this was that Allan's gone. My dream for this was that we just have a whole bunch of faces, like almost like a, like the bubble when you see everybody watching basketball. Pascal's role. ND, I know that you have spent a lot of time thinking about not only Scottie's role going forward, but Pascal's, how they interchange. Give me the lowdown on what you've thought so far of the Pascal-Scottie dynamic. Oh, I think your mic's not connected or something. But anyway, let's start. Curly, before ND starts talking, give me your thoughts on that.
I think Pascal is adjusting to a role that might not fit his player dynamic right now. And I think that his inability to stretch the floor as a jump shooter, especially from 3, is having negative returns for obvious reasons. I also feel that he's settling for a lot of difficult shots and shots that he's not very comfortable with. I think that he's fading away from his mid-range game, which I'm okay with, but if it's not working, go to your bread and butter. And I really feel like he's struggling to find that balance right now. And also, I think the team is struggling to find that consistent role for him. Pascal does great things as an initiator. He has the cachet to attract double teams, and that's going to create great opportunities, because he's not a half bad passer either, right? I mean, if he's averaging like 5, 6 assists, it's not by accident. So he can definitely create for others. And like I said, there's a lot of players that lack that creation, and I just can't seem to understand with one of our, probably not our best creator, but one of our better creators, that the ball is out of his hand and he's kind of in that Chris Boucher, Precious Achua type of role. I think it's a complete disservice for an all NBA player.
So as far as like how he's fit into the role though, like Pascal has to bear some of the responsibility. He's not, I wrote the piece talking about how it's changed, and it's changed a lot, certainly. And there's been a couple games where he's been able to work out of the post, but one of the better driving wings in the NBA is just not getting a lot of those opportunities. But as far as like playing out of like a little bit more motion, playing more so above the break as a spacer, have you been surprised a little bit at, or maybe disappointed in Pascal's ability to shift back into that? Like, I think he's currently shooting 24% from 3. That kind of stuff hurts.
Yeah, definitely. I would say more disappointed, mixed in with some surprise as well. Oh, is he back?
Yeah. Go ahead though.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm definitely surprised, and disappointed at the same time, considering that we've seen um his growth and the All NBA status and his aspirations to be a top 5 player. He's definitely had to grind for everything that he's had up until this point, but to see him, struggle with shots that he would normally hit, especially in the mid range, or struggle with his ability to get to the basket at times, or um, the inconsistent ability to read the placement of the secondary defender is just very uncharacteristic of him. And absolutely, I agree with you. I don't think it's all new system or coach or role. Like, he has to bear some of the responsibility, and it just seems like he's trying to do too much too quickly. There's no composure with some of his possessions. It just seems like as soon as he catches the ball, he needs to attack right away, or he needs to shoot the ball right away. And it just seems like slow down. Like, if Scotty can get those possessions where Scotty's a completely different player. He's an absolute bully. So he can take his time and back somebody down and get that. Pascal's not like that. But he has the ability to, be fluid and get to the basket. And it just seems that there's hesitation. I think it's probably the short answer. There's definitely hesitation on his part, maybe a lack of confidence. But like I said, you were an All NBA player. You were most improved, and part of that was your ability to score in the paint and score in the mid range. So go back to that and see if it works. But it's kind of hard for all that to exist if the spacing doesn't exist. So it's tough.
Yeah. Curly, your gorgeous beard, it's like an accomplishment. I'm gonna have you hit mute because it's hitting the mic a little bit while we ask ND.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right
no
on.
problem though. ND, thoughts
right,
on
well-
the Pascal and Scotty corollary, let's say.
Well, obviously, if you're on Twitter, you can see the whole war, I guess, the civil
Sure.
war happening. And I think it's really funny to see, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of things that both sides can work on. The number one thing I see is the individual minutes. So the minutes where Pascal's on the floor and Scotty's not on the floor, and vice versa, right? To start the season off, Scotty bench minutes were a disaster, right? And not just as a team, but I was seeing Scotty not be as assertive. Like, I would like to say he's not being a man, he's just being a boy out there, right?
What is this?
But sometimes like Scotty, he just goes at him and just pushes, bullies players out the way. And a lot of times during the bench minutes, he's handing it off to Jalen McDaniels, to Malachi Flynn. I'm like, yeah, that's nice, good offense, but yesterday we saw him getting a lot of pick and roll possessions, right? And even just getting into the paint, right? So that's a big thing I wish was better. But when they're playing together, bro, I can't lie, it's just tough sometimes. It's tough when Poeltl, Schroeder, Scotty and Siakam on the floor, and you just can't shoot, right? They try their best to start the season off. We're using Siakam as a shooting guard. We try to fix that a little bit. But at the end of the day, there's not much you can do when they are together. So I'd like to see them when they're not together, 6 minutes per half, they're not together, take advantage of the better spacing. And just one more point to that, my biggest problem with that is the Siakam minutes outside of Scotty tend to have a lot of starters, and Scotty minutes tend to have a lot of bench players. So you might see a Scotty, Precious, let's say Jalen McDaniels. We saw that I think with Scotty, Precious, Jalen McDaniels, Boucher, and someone else against the team we played before the Wizards, against the Wizards. We saw that lineup, and Scotty's just not that good yet to be able to manhandle those lineups, right? But if he puts Siakam, I feel like we're going to be in a better position. Then maybe you can have Scotty with Schroeder. Maybe you can put a Gary in there. Maybe even a Yak, because he's starting to look a lot better with Yak compared to last year. So that's just my biggest thing between those two.
So you would rather give Pascal the difficult load as a creator rather than Scotty right now?
Yes. Like we love Scottie. Scottie's playing well, but he's just not the creator Siakam is right now.
Do you think that it's worth just giving Scottie the reps to just, hey, this is what you're going to see for a long time. This is a franchise that's going to want you to carry those lineups. Like, go for it.
I mean, I can see the logic of it, but I just think, first of all, hopefully he doesn't see those lineups 2 years down the line, like a Jalen McDaniels, Chris Boucher, Preston Chua lineup surrounding Scotty Barnes. Please no. That's all I'm asking for, like going for, please no. But yes, I do understand the point of like giving him a difficult task, but at the same time, good players make younger players better, right? I was having this conversation earlier. This is why OG Anunoby is so important. When you're having play finishers like OG Anunoby that can stretch the floor out, it's just, I feel like it's more conducive to development than just putting him in a cage, you know? Because that's just really what it is.
Okay, I got you, Baker. We're gonna swing back to you. What do you think about the Siakam, as Andy put it, the Siakam Scottie civil war on Twitter? Are you seeing anything like that?
I mean, before I would say it's a good problem to have, and I think I still think that way. Both of these guys are extremely talented players. Like, they're very good. To have them both on one team is very, unique, and it's very cool to have because, you can't – a team, especially with this team, it's like very inept with like good NBA level basketball players. But having two guys that, you can trust and that, hey, they're going to dominate any matchup you throw at them, and they're going to find a way to just be tenable on the basketball court is something that's like very breathtaking, and it's something that I think you should like very appreciate a lot. Scotty's young, he's taking a leap, but that shouldn't like extinguish like how good of a player Pascal is, because he's an all NBA guy, he's an NBA champion. So I think you should cherish like both in the same way, because they're both like good in their own way.
You're a real wholesome dude. Cherish the players. I like that. I want to go around the horn here. We're gonna start with Tre. You got two options: trade Pascal at the trade deadline, or extend him. Ooh. What are you choosing to do? And I want answers from everybody. Tre, you're up first.
I just think for the current situation that we're in, it's imperative to give Scottie as many repetitions with spacing as possible. And I think by extending him, you're obviously keeping them together. They're both really good, and they win their minutes together, which I think people aren't really aware of. But you're putting yourself in a situation where you're kind of pigeonholed to this team, and you're going further down the line of trying to make this thing work. I would give Scottie pick a direction, give Scottie what he needs, and move forward.
So there's an interesting thing that I've noticed with maybe Raptors fandom is that very hung up on counting stats a lot of the time, because there's been a lot of vitriol towards players who win minutes in recent history. And like that's the thing too, is that like Scottie early in the season last year, when everybody was getting off like some jokes that are about basketball, some jokes that are like in poor taste, and it's kind of making the rounds. He's winning minutes and doing so at a level that was higher than his rookie year. Sure, he didn't make a leap as a scorer as far as like the points per game. Sure, he regressed as far as his 3-point shooting, but like he was winning minutes, and they're not everything, certainly, but it's important to follow those numbers as well. And Pascal and Scottie still win a ton of minutes. Fred won a ton of minutes. I'm not rehashing anything like that, but it is important to win your minutes when you're out there. Just as a piece of context, Andy, it's on you, brother. Extend or trade? What's the situation?
Trade. I feel like at this current moment, it makes the most sense. My thing always has been, if we get the right five next to them, keep both of them, right? And in theory, that was supposed to be Precious Achiuwa, right? But unfortunately, the precious stock has not been stocking recently. Not at all, right? But to get the center that you would want, theoretically, like a Alex Sarr in this draft, for example, or like a Chet Holmgren and whatnot, you need to be like top 3 pick bad. Siakam and Scottie are not giving you that, right? And just generally, I feel like if you are able to trade Siakam, you're able to have a more natural NBA team, not this experiment we got going on right now, right? So I'd say trade Siakam. And personally, as a Siakam fan, I'd like to see him on a better team, right? So that's just my whole thing.
Who do you want to see him on? What's the perfect marriage of package coming back and Pascal having a chance at a title?
So, have you guys seen the Warriors trade that's been making rounds recently? With
Trey has been offering me Warriors trades for years.
Bro, there's this one in particular. I think it's Moody, Podzemski. I think I said his name, or like Pods, Brandon Pods.
Pajemski.
Yeah, Pajemski, my bad. And Chris Paul, right?
You want Chris Paul?
Oh, I would love Chris Paul on this team. I would love Chris Paul. I'm a Kyle Lowry fan. I was like on the Twitter, I was slandering Chris Paul. But if Chris Paul was on this basketball team, I would be very happy. I would be a very happy Raptors fan. I will not lie. Right? So get that. Have Chris Paul, like, first of all, find Scottie more off box. I feel like Scottie gets missed a lot on cuts and stuff like that. But also gives this team like a cool headedness, right? Dennis Schroeder has done a decent job, but Dennis Schroeder is not Chris Paul, even if Chris Paul's like 48 years old, right? So that's just the way it is. Then having Moses Moody, a 3-and-D, I guess like guard wing next to Scottie, and Pods is that kind of like ball handling combo guard next to Scottie while maybe getting a pick. Then you're having Siakam next to Curry, right? First of all, like the 2-man game between those two, oh, beautiful, all of that. And like Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green, obviously. And I think that's his best chance to win a title, realistically.
Okay. Somebody just went through a door. Okay, that's Baker. Curly,
Yeah, my fault.
we're gonna go to you, brother. Also, feel free as far as like anybody. I'll be the stopgap. Actually, no, I think Curly's probably gonna say something similar to me. So we'll go to Curly right now. Are you trying to get the trade right now? Are you trying to extend Pascal? What's the move?
They've had many opportunities to make trades and they haven't. So in terms of them making a trade, I'm defeated. Just extend him. Just extend him and then figure it out later. I think this organization's struggle to commit to a direction is the reason why we're in this situation right now. And I think moving Pascal for, I don't know. I don't feel confident that they're going to maximize his value because I'm with ND. I want him to go to a good team, but how much quality are you getting from those good teams? That's my concern. If you're going to trade Pascal, you're going to have to trade to the, not so good teams. And I say that, loosely because no guarantees in the NBA anymore. But the young rebuilding teams have the most talent, and that's what we've been lacking, considering that Masai has been giving away our draft picks like Halloween candy every single season. So it's kind of hard to build that way. So by having Pascal, you extend him, you buy a little bit more time, because that's been their approach this entire time. It's just buy time, and then eventually make a decision. I think they've done a huge disservice to Pascal, with the comments in the presser and whatnot. And this is somebody that just goes to work. So I think he needs to be rewarded in some capacity. So extend him because you're going to miss his production, especially if you're not going to be getting the hoopers that I'm referring to. So extend him.
I'm going to fall in line with what Curly said. I think that you extend and you try and believe in Pascal and Scottie figuring out their minutes together and finding more, let's say, synergy with Jakob. You would hope, since Jakob is his rolling is a lot about pace, and both Scottie and Siakam are working on developing their pick and roll pace. Obviously, Scottie with a much higher ceiling because he's so much younger. But yeah, I'm gonna go on the extend side. Jose Calderon of Raptors fame in the chat says extending Siakam is a horrible idea. Curly and I on the other side of it. Baker, where do you fall on the extension?
I think at this point you kind of have to trade him.
The door.
Yeah. I think they missed the chance to extend him and then maybe trade him at the same time. And maybe try to recoup some of the value that they kind of like are losing right now because he doesn't have an extension. But I don't think bringing him back will change anything. And I do think, trying to get as much young talent as you can to kind of kickstart this Scotty plus the young guys run they probably want to go in. I think that's more feasible. But like it's rough. It's very tough. I don't know which team would actually like be satisfy like any like what returns do you want to get in a Pascal trade like right now currently?
Trey was saying like a broom in a bucket or something to me earlier. Like,
yeah.
like that. Maddie, new on the call. Where are you? The question that we're currently is you have two choices. And I think everybody probably has a rough idea of their turn for Pascal would be maybe a first round pick that is not lottery, probably from a team that's pursuing the playoffs, and an interesting young talent. I assume that's the current level of package we're looking at. Maybe the high watermark is 2 picks and an interesting young talent. I don't think it goes lower than a pick and an interesting young talent. The question, do you extend Siakam or do you pull the trigger on that trade?
I probably pull the trigger on the trade at this point. Like I've seen enough Siakam and Scottie this year, even without like Poeltl on the court. It's not looking that good. I mean, like you got to be confident that this team fucking has a much better quality, much better level to hit. If we extend Siakam, there's nothing that I've seen that convinces me that's the right move right now. So if you can get some return for Siakam after seeing what happened with Fred last summer, I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure to make that move.
This is that is where a lot of the pressure is coming from for sure, is that the Raptors had Fred walk for nothing. And it was kind of funny. I saw somebody comment on one of the videos I've done recently. And when somebody says something like kind of crazy, I always click the user to see what else they say on the channel. And this was a person who was constantly talking about as far as what the Raptors got back for Fred. It was like, well, they got Dennis and they got Jalen. I don't think I'm quite there, but as far as like letting a guy walk, do you think that there's any potential upside for people to look at is like, oh, we have more money now because Siakam's gone? Or is it strictly, would everyone be looking at that as like, wow, we let another guy walk? Is there any optimism that can be mined from that situation? Anybody on that side of the conversation?
Shout out Clint Parks, man. He's doing good work.
I don't know. The way I kind of look at it, like you obviously can extend him, but you're extending the amount of time where you're putting your core piece in a non-functional situation, and he's in probably the biggest time period of his development, and you're not synchronizing it with good fit. So I would try to make a trade happen, and I want Pascal to go to a good team. If I were to pick a team, it would either be Indiana or Dallas. They both have some interesting young pieces. They're both really young. They're both really good teams, and Pascal will excel there and be extended and be able to be in the playoffs and hopefully like make a deep run, especially with like a guy like Luka.
Sorry to interrupt. One thing I feel like is kind of missing this whole conversation is Scotty's in year 3 and he's about to enter year 4, right? And he's still young, but there's like we still gotta. For example, Rudy Gobert trade happened in Anthony Edwards' 3rd year, if I'm correct, right? Jimmy Butler to Minnesota. I think it's maybe second or third year for Cat. Jason Tatum, by his third year, had a competent cast around him. If we even go to Scotty's draft class right now, Evan Mobley's team looks competent. The Rockets are looking competent. These teams are looking competent in year 3 with their stars, or at the very least, they're trying to be competent and trying to make a push. We are talking about rebuilding in Scotty's third year.
This is such a good point. This is the thing about when you have stars hit their all-star status on their rookie contract. It gives you basically 2 really good opportunities to build. We saw this happen with Luka in an imperfect way.
Yeah.
The Mavericks chased Porzingis, and while did it hurt the Mavericks? I don't know. It gave them a chance to try and pursue a higher status in the league, maybe a higher ceiling. I do wonder if keeping Pascal, extending him, trying to make sure that try and find a way to make it work, and keep Scotty in the realm of the playoffs for reps there and winning basketball. I wonder if that's part of the extension talk. And I'm really glad you brought that up, ND, is how do you avoid that aspect of the conversation? Is you want to stay competitive because, ND talked about it, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes ago. If you're putting Scotty in a position to constantly carry lineups instead of, help excel with good players and play off of other good players. And then, the natural progression is supposed to be kind of what's happening now. Pascal's still here. Scotty makes that leap regardless. Dennis took some of Pascal's touches. Yeah, but Scotty did too. And Scotty currently is doing a really good job with those extra touches. And that's the natural order of things is you want the young star to overtake the older star. That's the ideal situation, not that there's warring factions and everyone's angry and one has to be expedited. You want there to be a natural change in how that goes. And one would have to hope and trust that Pascal could be gracious in doing so. I think he would be. They like each other. I don't think there's any of the a daytime drama stuff that there was with Fred and Scotty. I do think about that. That's a great point. Does that sway anybody? Does that shift anybody's point of view?
No.
One thing. Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
If I see a Dallas deal with Tim Hardaway Jr. coming this way, I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. No,
yeah, 31 last night, man.
Hey, that brother can shoot.
Yeah,
yeah, last night, man.
Yeah. And then what's the next 5 games looking like?
Bro. Please tap into some Josh Green tape.
I think the Raptors will take any spacer that they can get right now. It's looking very bad.
So here's my thing, and I'll go back and rehash it. It's Pascal, I understand there's difficulties of fit, but I would rather give him a shot to try it out and see where that goes, because you can pivot. If Siakam, if they manage to sign him, who knows what happens in the offseason. I don't think he's getting extended. That's the conversation, but that's probably not happening, right? Yeah. He can be signed at any point in time till whenever. But I think that Pascal, you keep him, you try and find a way to make it work, stay competitive, and you can pivot from Pascal down the road. He's still 29. On April 2nd, he turns 30. I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think that the fit, for correct reasons, fans are responding to it oh man, what the hell, and correctly so. But as far as the future of it, man, I think that there's maybe some potential, not enough to be a championship level team or whatever, but you keep the team competitive and you don't have that pick this year anyway. You can pivot going forward. That's probably that's probably where things are
if you're
sitting.
bad enough, you can have the pick.
Do you think they can get there?
If Siakam's not on the team for
they're gonna be awful.
15, 16 games, I think we have that. And that's part of the big reason I am willing to trade Siakam pretty early, because I do think it would be bad shit, to be honest with you, right? And there's Alex Sarr. I know we're still in November, so maybe the draft is not all the way there. But Alex Sarr next to Scotty Barnes, sign me up. Isaiah Collier next to Scotty Barnes, sign me up.
I would probably prefer for the pick to to convert this year, just simply because like obviously like Cooper Flag's in the next draft class.
Yeah.
You're in the long haul.
Yeah, I would much rather the pick convert. They're not held to any direction that they pick, and they can move and shake and pivot from there. Like I could see a scenario where you trade Pascal still, but you trade him for another veteran where the fit just makes more sense. Like I know people have talked about like Zach LaVine, for example. Like you obviously could do like a 3-way trade where you aren't giving up as many assets. You're getting someone who fits seamlessly with Scottie, and you're still somewhat competitive. So like there's still that scenario as well.
Okay, Maddie, we've got you on the call. The last topic is yours before we get out of here. What's on your mind in Raptorland?
I mean, one thing that I've been thinking about lately is seeing Darko's impact with Malachi Flynn. We're also seeing a big jump with Scottie. I mean, can't really attribute Darko to contributing much to like Scottie's jump, right? I mean, all the work was put in the summer, but something with like Malachi Flynn is Darko like does this prove that he's kind of that developmental coach that that we wanted to hire, or is that just kind of is there no sample, like too small of a sample size?
It's I think that he has like testimonials from a wide range of players even before this. The cool thing with Darko is that the players actually came out and said like this is one of the guys who's helped tremendously with what I was trying to do as far as like my development, my growth. And it doesn't surprise me that they're getting, meaningful steps, like not the biggest thing, but meaningful steps from a few players, and to see where some of that stuff goes. I think Malachi, it has to be longer than 11 games, and he's had 4 or 5 good ones out of the 11 relative to his role, relative to expectations. We have to see more games for the proof of concept, but that would just be more accolades piled on Darko. I think he's set as far as like a developer. That's almost like the basis of where he comes from, right? He did a lot of scouting even while he was coaching. He quit basketball when he was really young to get into this, and he's constantly worked with players to develop and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely a nod in that direction. Does anybody else feel differently, I suppose?
I was gonna ask a question, like to kind of piggyback off Matt's like little assessment. I was gonna ask, I think we're 10 games in, right?
11.
11. Okay, we're 11 games in. We're kind of like 10% into the season. This is a question for all of you guys if you want to answer. What grade would you give like the Raptors so far? Has the season been what you've expected? Has it been shocking? Has it been like, have you kind of just been like, it's a lot of the same? Like in terms of guys like Darko specifically, he's a new coach. Dennis, Jakob, Scotty, Pascal, like the whole team in totality. Like, what grade would you give like through 11 games?
I'll give him a B+, and Scotty's responsible for like 2 of those letter grades. Scotty taking this step is everything, and I'll just keep it short on that.
Yeah, I would give it an A. Like Scotty's leap was going to be the determinant of whether this season was successful. He's blown my expectations of what I thought he would produce. My good old co-host posted a prediction of his stat line, and some people thought it wasn't doable. He's blown those expectations. He's producing, and although the Raptors, they're not a contender, they seem like they're in a similar position as like fringe play-in team. There's much more positive vibes just simply because of the fact that their young star is proving to be who everyone wanted him to be. And there wasn't that same energy last year. So I'm happy. As long as he keeps playing the way he does and we see Grady earn more minutes, shoot the ball a bit better, I'm completely happy.
Yeah, I think I'd give them a B this season. We're seeing big step from Scottie. OG looks amazing. And I think and Siakam's still showing that he can be that guy, in every couple games, I guess. I think the system's part to blame for him not showing up as often as he did. And when you look at our record, we were 5-6. That's where I expected us to be after 10, 11 games. But it's hard to watch the Raptors this year. You know, there have been more so than ever. The amount of times I've walked up just to walk to the front door just to turn away from the TV this year, right? Like too many times. But I mean, if you look at it at a high level, I mean, there's lots to be happy about. 11 games in.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think they're right where I expected them to be. I just didn't think it was gonna be so rough to get to that point. But I'm with Samson. I think a B plus, and a lot of that has to do with Scotty. And you know what? I gotta show some love to OG. I've been his toughest critic. Samson could attest to that. And he's been consistent, and I think that's what we saw last season. And to see him continue to build and step into that direction and being more reliable on offense and less of a liability. It's not perfect, but there's more good than bad in terms of OG's development right now. But Scotty has exceeded expectations. I think a lot of us were expecting that in year 2. I thought it was a little premature, and I think it was some excitement from year 1. But to see him bounce back the way that he has up until this point, it's a joy to watch, and that's probably the only reason why I'm still watching Raptors games is because of Scotty.
Yeah, I feel the same way, kind of like watching football. Like, you know, my team's not very good, but, you know, I finally have, it looks like I finally have a franchise quarterback, and that's probably the only reason why I watch the games. So I kind of feel the same sentiment, like at the same time.
I think for me, I'd probably give it a B. Like record-wise, I think it's about the same. I think maybe one more L, right? But obviously, Scotty Barnes, amazing. He's changed my life. Scotty Barnes has changed my life, and he's just giving me excitement, right? But I feel like with Siakam, Jakob, Gary Trent Jr., and Grady, they've been a little bit disappointing, right? So that kind of brings it down for me. Because you'd hope Siakam plays better, so that hypothetically, if you do trade him, better return. And I think Darko has been pretty good. I know, again, on Twitter, you're seeing a lot of negative Darko stuff. Yeah. For me, I'm looking at this team like Darko is here to develop. And I've seen him empower Malachi. I've seen him empower Grady. I've seen him empower Scotty, right? And even though for the vets, it's not looking as beautiful, for the young players, it's starting to look a lot better. And I'll give Darko like a B. So, yeah, I like a B on the season for everyone.
Okay.
That's good.
Before we leave here, any hot takes on what's going to happen the rest of the season?
Precious Achiuwa starts.
Ooh, that is that's my hot take. Before
I've been on that one.
Before it was because he's gonna play good, like really, really good job. I just think like Darko is just gonna bench Jakob at some point and put Precious in, and I think Precious is gonna come back to normal Precious levels.
If Jakob isn't good, if he's not starting because he's not good enough, I will rip my hair out.
I agree.
I don't know. It hasn't been looking good, but it has not been looking good.
Yeah, it's tough. Anybody else?
Does it have to be? Is it Raptors related or can it be NBA?
Go ahead, shoot.
Since it just laughed at me. But for the Raptors, my hot take, I don't think though. I know I said they should, but I don't think P's gonna get traded. I don't think he will.
I lean to I think he probably doesn't get traded. Like the Raptors win enough games where they say, again, let's see what happens in the play-in.
Yeah,
and then they figure it out in the summer. Because like there's still, if he's gonna go to a good team, there's most likely going to be the option of a sign and trade. So they'll get something back, and they've already shown they've done that with a great player as well.
And also my NBA one, I think Bilal Coulibaly makes an all defensive team. Tell me he can't. Tell me
this season.
Is it not? I'm saying like it's a hot take, but like, you know, I'm watching these games. He looks pretty good. So
All right.
it's pretty good out there. So that's my hot take. That's
All
my
right.
hot take.
Curly,
I think
Matt,
they-
anything?
Yeah, I don't think Pascal's getting traded. I don't think this front office is doing nothing. We're gonna ride this team to the end of the season, and that might not be a hot take. That's just me repeating history.
That would
Scenario.
be tough.
Sorry.
No, that would be tough. Like me and Baker sat on last trade deadline on Zoom for like the last hour, and I'm like,
my God.
here it comes, baby. Here it comes.
Didn't
They
happen.
ain't doing nothing, man.
When 3 o'clock hit, I screamed and put my hands in my face, and Baker took a picture of me just flipping up.
Yeah, when I tell you that like my entire household heard the scream, like they literally heard it. Like,
It's tough. Okay, everyone's gotten through everything.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for joining our live podcast. We're gonna hopefully we do this again. I know like pull-up trade's been a little bit inconsistent, but we're trucking along. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you guys, and we will see you next time.